Hi, this is Dr. Otto Janke for Empire Longevity's Longevity Live. This is for January 19th, 2022. And the discussion for tonight is that no one wants to live longer. Do they? No one wants to live longer. And what's astounding about that is that I ask people. A recent article, living to 100 years old is becoming the new normal. Did you happen to read the story recently about the oldest living human being, Kane Tanaka, who is Japanese, is 117 years old. And she is what is known as a super centenarian, not just getting to 100, but actually blowing past it for another decade, almost two. But others have lived longer, including American-born Sarah Noss, who lived to 119. That's going. I mean, imagine what you could see 119 years. It's amazing. What's changed? Are people really living longer? Well, here's an astounding little fact for you, is that as many as half of today's 5-year-olds in the US alone can expect to live to the age of 100. We're going to expect them to be living to 100, according to Stanford Center on Longevity. And this may become the norm for newborns by 2050. And it's really not that far away. I mean, it's really not that far away. This is 22. We're looking at another, a couple of decades, and we're there. Why are people living longer? There's a great question. Better healthcare, nutrition. Nutrition's a big one. A focus on disease prevention. I'm not quite sure where that's at. I'd rather go with instead of disease prevention, that's early detection. Early detection. Because in America, let's be realistic, in America, we do so little disease prevention. It's deadly. Better education and rising standards of living for a larger portion of the world population. Everything they listed is expected to improve in all countries. Even the poorest of countries are anticipating a life expectancy to actually go up. Some of them are going to be going up from, 30 years to 35 years, but still going to push it up. Take a look at the book Factfulness by Hans Rosling, who is a past advisor to the World Health Organization and UNICEF. The book's a real eye-opener on world trends and how the world is in much better state than you think. Which brings me to this point, is that if you and I are going to anticipate being around at 100, in America, we're looking at a common thought that our life is extending. Our years, we're adding years on. And that it's happening all around the world. We talk about this often here, is that the Japanese women, 85, 86, 87 years old, on the average. White females in America, 78, 79. White males, 74, 75. African-American males, 68, 69. The discrepancy in there has always been a big question of mine. Why is it, if we are genetically no different than each other, we're not genetically dramatically different than each other, and we haven't been for 40,000 years. We haven't had that much of a genetic change in 40,000 years. Height, skin color, hair, it's not really huge differences. And when we start to see a 15, almost 22 decade difference between Japanese women and African-American men, African-American women are living longer than white males. And we start looking at this and saying, it's not that much different. We aren't that much different. But the very, very interesting part of this is that our life expectancy is going longer. our time on earth is extending. But a critical thing that is not is our health expectancy. Our health expectancy. So if we are, let's take the round numbers of 100 years. We're going to live this long. So we're going to go from this long, living this long to this long. Awesome. Great. Imagine the impacts you can make around the world. Imagine how many more times you can laugh. We're going to live this long. And so here's our life expectancy now. This is our health expectancy. Well, our health expectancy isn't going to increase along with in the same parameters or the same extent that our life expectancy is. So we can talk about life, extension, but we don't talk about health extension. Now, there's a difference between what men and what we're doing now and how people are dying. What's been dramatically shown by COVID is what I've talked about numbers of times before, which is the disposable generation. The disposable generation, which if we take statistically, and I'm not saying vaxxed, unvaxxed, I'm telling you that, and by the way, this generation, these people in these age groups are the most vaccinated in America. Over 55, especially when you get in your 60s, 70s, and 80s, these people are the most vaccinated in America. They've also made up it's not even close, the greatest percentage of people who have died during COVID. The numbers are looking at over the age of 64, approximately 90% of the people who have passed away died during COVID, of COVID. They're saying statistically of COVID, right around 92% of them, 90%. When we add in the ones over 55, we start looking at 92, 93% of all the people who have died in America are of that age group. My first question is, why is that? Well, they're more susceptible to this and this. If you and I are going to be making it to these dates, to these markers in life, well, we need to change that boat around pretty damn quickly. We need to change that around dramatically fast. Our reliance upon more pharmaceuticals and having access to these things and having lower drug prices, although it is wanted and desired by the seniors in America, it's not going to get us there. It's not going to get us there. One of the things that you'll see when especially during governor in elections, especially presidential elections, it'll happen in Florida and in retirement moded states, more states where people go to retire, is they'll talk about easier access to medications. And people will listen. This is the one thing I'm going to vote on. I'm going to vote on this thing right here. Is this, are you going to get me easier access and lower prices on medications? And the questions I have to ask over and over and over and over again, as we've seen with the Kaiser Permanente, the monster insurance company out of California, when they start saying, and I started looking at this years ago. At that time, it was approximately, the average American was fulfilling approximately 12, almost 13 prescriptions a year. Now it's close to 17. And that's for every man, woman, and child in America. And so for myself, who doesn't take a prescription, there's someone taking 34. No one gets to be pushing, no one in America, no one's going to be pushing that life extension if you're on 34 medications a year, because there's only one way you're going to go, is that's up with those. Having easier access to more pharmacology is not going to get us to there. Having easier access to better foods, to more motion, more emotion, more thinking, more mental capabilities, more stimulation, more friendships. That's what's going to get us there. And it's not going to be how quickly or how much better we can fulfill our 17 prescriptions. I was talking with a teacher today as we are in the midst of COVID. I said, what are we going to do for the students? Because she was talking about the stresses that the students have been under. And I said, who hasn't been, one way or another? Who hasn't been? You have, I have. Who hasn't been? I said, what are we going to do for the students post COVID? So, well, I don't know. I said, well, you know what we should do? Here are 3 things. And we start with that generation. One is we stop screwing around with the bullshit that we call foods in schools. Stop thinking that ketchup is a vegetable. Don't allow soft drinks, you know what they are, to be sold in schools. We have truly a nutritionist come in and feed the kids. Not a state-run agency, which is looking at dollars and cents as their primary arbitrator of what's being used as food. Second of all is, in our school district, which happens many places, they've gone to an every other day phys ed. Well, we need to stop that. We stop fooling ourselves and thinking that's enough. Is we go to every day for an hour. Every day for an hour. And no one sits. This is it. Let's go. Boom. Everybody's going. The fast kids, the slow kids, the tall kids, the small kids. We all do it. And third is we give those kids times to actually talk things out without phones. Talk things out. Learn how to make friends. And I bring that up for them because if those are the things that we know are going to help promote them to be around for those next decades, they're actually going to be pushing their time into 100 years. Well, then what are you doing? What are we doing? So the very first action step that you got to have is, what's your rocket fuel? What's your rocket fuel? Not your addictions, not the stuff, not the comfort food. I've never heard of comfort food. I find it amazing that we have comfort foods. Stuff that's going to rocket your cholesterol levels, rocket your fat levels. If there's stuff, you eat the stuff on a regular basis, this is what it's going to do. It'll change your heart rate, your digestive patterns. It'll change the way that you feel. I mean, it's a, you know, if I told you I was going to have comfort marijuana, you'd be like, what? Yeah, I have a comfort drug. Well, I'm going to drink. No, I'm not going to have alcohol. I'm going to drink alcohol in this. Well, why do you drink the alcohol? You do it because it changes your mood. Same thing with the food. It changes your mood. So what kind of endorphins and enkephalins are you getting from that stuff that does that? So we have to get down to the basis of how much rocket fuel can we be ingesting? How can we do this on a daily basis? And it's not a matter of if or not. This is what we have to do. You and I are going to be setting the trend of how we're going to be. We have to set the trend for them. They're going to grow up seeing how well we have done, and they're going to say, I want that. I remember my parents, my grandparents, who were just rocking. They played kickball with us. They went to concerts with me. We had fun all the time. We went hiking. We went camping. We did all these things, which you're supposed to do. The activity levels, being active and having activities have got to increase in America. I mean, it's not a matter if or not. You and I have got to say, listen, this is what we're going to do. Now, and we have to get into a point where we haven't taken the foods that we eat and allowing the foods to eat to slow us down, promote cancers, promote inflammation, promote our brains not working as well. I'm talking to 3 more people. Tomorrow, I'm actually, when this is coming on, I will have spoken to Chef AJ on a vegan website, a vegan podcast. I'm not vegan, but I've moved my eating from there to there. Because I know it's the best for me coming up in the next decades. I know it is. And so do you. So one of the very first things we have to really get into, and it's simple. I posted a short time ago on the Empire Longevity Insiders Facebook page a new spice I made the other night. I asked Vegan Michelle. I interviewed her last week. They'll be coming up on our website within the next month. I asked her, I kind of caught her off surprise. I said, what's one spice you'd recommend I have? And I've said this many times, but when I was growing up, I'm 59. Growing up, the biggest spice I had growing up, the wild one I had growing up, ooh, I'm getting wild here, having a spice, was medium chicken wing sauce. Woo! Now we're stepping up and stepping out. Holy cow, isn't it? Wow. Medium chicken wing sauce. I can't do really hot stuff. I don't enjoy that. Give me spicy. And so she said Burberry. And Burberry, I said, what's that? She said, it's used in Ethiopian dishes. Okay. So I couldn't find it. And so I made it. I found a recipe and I made it. Super, super simple. Not expensive. Not expensive whatsoever. I mean, probably the whole thing costs less than $15 for all the spices. And if you buy it in bulk, you only need this much of some things. I mean, that might be 60 cents or $1. I mean, and so I look forward to that. And having you and I take steps forward in our eating and exploring different flavors, different textures, different stuff. One of the greatest things that's happened to me in becoming a veg head is not relying on just having meat. Yes, I know you can put different rubs on it, but there are so many more styles, so many more fruits and vegetables that I've never tried than there are rubs or sauces. And so it's made me push me out to learn more. And Burberry, I mean, who knew? I didn't know about that. I didn't know how to say it. But for you and I to actually get to these next decades, and there's a great article called The Inconvenient Truths About Human Longevity by J.L. Shansky, the Journals of Gerontology from December of 2019. And he talks about how we want to be around for as many years as possible, but we don't talk about just kicking ass all that time too. I mean, having spiritual enlightenment, having fun, personal enlightenment, financial, physical, nutritional, all these enlightenments, having great talks with friends for decades to come, great laughs with friends for decades to come. We don't talk about that. And when I've asked many, many practice members, how many years do you plan on being around? It's always a few years less than what their parents died. I ask them why that is, and they say, because I don't want to go out like that. I don't want to go out like that. You're like, oof. I saw it their last couple of years. We're like, I don't want to go out like that. And I said, so you'd rather cut it short? I don't want to go out like that. Interesting. Fascinating. And my next question always to them is, you do know we can help you change that and improve that to make those years not that. Yeah, but, and that's what they always say. Yeah, but, well, we know it's not genetic. 25% of your life expectancy is genetic. The other 75, 80% is you. It's your fault. If you want to get there, let's get there. But getting there isn't that hard. We have to get you to make these small changes along the way, small improvements. We start doing that, our opportunity to crash through 100, crashing, rocking it. Our opportunity goes up great. So I don't want to live to 100. I don't want to do that. I want to rock at 100. That's what I want to do. If I asked you specifically, do you want to live to 100? You're like, yeah. Or then I ask you, do you want to rock at 100? And you would say, yeah, yeah. Which one do you want to do? Do you want to live to 100 or you want to be rocking at 100? I know you want the second one. This is empire longevity. This is empire longevity. Come along for the ride. We'll see you next time.